Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, good evening. Good evening. If you be so kind and put in the comments that you can hear me, you can see me, both on LinkedIn and YouTube. So if you can put in the comments that everything is fine, I can see some of you already, and I can see on my phone that it should be live on LinkedIn. So yeah, Mikko from Finland, great to Rumble. Good evening to Helsinki, obviously. And let's wait for the other guys. People are coming, but the connection between the broadcasting tool I use, StreamYard, sometimes it's slow. Radek Žebík, LinkedIn News, everything is okay, working. Kateřina Tumová, working. Ribeles, Kamila Horáková, Marek Slok, everything is fine. That's perfect. All is okay. Everything is perfect. Pavel Staněk, all is fine. Jan Paukner, so good evening. Okay, guys, let's start. Topic today is how to cope with a failure. As I said in the invitation, failure, whether you do sport or business or you are artist, is very rarely fatal. What is fatal is our thinking about a failure. There was a great, commander, Sun Tzu, in Asian history. And Sun Tzu was saying always that all battles are won first in the brain, and then they are fought at the battlefield. Okay, so you can, win in your brain, but you can lose also in your brain, and there's a narrow gap between those two. One top guy I'm coaching is Patrick Schick. He's one of the best players in Bundesliga. He used to play for AS Rome last year for Leipzig, and this year Patrick is playing for Bayern Leverkusen. And when he was playing for Rome, for AS Rome, he played the first match against Ronaldo. And I asked him, I was coaching him like 2 days after the match, and I asked him, Patrick, how was the match? And he said, well, Ronaldo is like, during the preparation, he's staying like the Terminator and looking in one place. And I said, well, because he's winning the game in his mind before he goes and plays the game, right? And I said, Patrick, you can do two things only. You can say, I'll never be that good as Ronaldo, and then you are done. Whenever you will see Ronaldo, even like on the on the picture, you will be always afraid of Ronaldo. Or you may say, I'm 23, I'm already playing with Ronaldo. And that's the same when I, met first time Bill Gates, I could say, hey, he's so good, I'll be never that good as Bill Gates. Or I could say, hey, it's great that I can work with such a fantastic, guy. And I did rather the second option, because the issue with the failure, it's our brain. Because everybody on the call and everybody around the world, we see reality a bit different. Okay, I'll tell you how reality is created based on the neuroscience. Your senses are bringing you kind of, this is the picture of the reality. Those are your senses. Then you try to focus and take some information from your senses, but your brain can handle in 1 second only 120 bits of information, which is a very narrow view of the world, because each second around you, there's 11 million bits per second of that information. And everybody view, it's called perception, everybody view is a bit different. So my view is different from your view, is different from the other people's view, okay? But that view, I can, handle basically. What Viktor Frankl, who is the author of fantastic book, The Man's Search for Meaning, that's first strong book about the human, meaning. He survived a couple of Eduard Barza, regards to Switzerland. Ahoy. Tariq, hello. Altubacic greetings. So basically what he's saying in that book, you can very rarely, you know, influence kind of the input, what's going on. You can, but, you know, not necessarily all the time. What you can influence, and it's pretty much in your hand, is your reaction to that input. And it's called freedom of choice. You are free to choose how you will react, okay? It's up to you. If you are losing, if you are defeated in business, if you are defeated in art or in sport, it's up to you. It's your, you know, you choose, you know, what you will do. It's the freedom of choice. You are free to choose. Give you some example, right? You can, like, you know, we have a great tennis player, Pliskova. She's number 5 or number 6. She used to be even number 1. She never won yet any Grand Slam. And she is very good player. But unfortunately, I don't think she is working very well with the brain, because whenever she is losing at the Grand Slam, she's always saying, like, at the Wimbledon, oh, I, you know, don't like Wimbledon. You know, it's not my popular tournament, whatever. I don't like tournaments which are more than 1 week longer. And all of that negative stuff it's pushed in the brain, in the memory. And whenever she is playing and on the Wimbledon or US Open or whatever, in some difficult situation, your brain is basically comparing where you are with where you were in the past. And if there's some, you know, negative information about the past, it's bad for you. You are done. So that's one option. The other option is Rafa. I met Rafa last year at the US Open, and I could spend some time, you know, watching him. I was training and so on. When Rafa lost 2 weeks ago at the Masters, he basically said following. It was, you know, like head to head. This was a very good match. There were like a couple of decisive points. You know, Dominic played excellent, you know, game. But I'm not negative at all, because I had a lot of chances to win. It was pretty much, you know, fight of the equals, if you will. And that's what a champion is putting in his brain about the failure, okay? You can have a respect, but you should not be fearful. Because if you are fearful, if you are putting a lot of fear and negativity in your subconsciousness, in your, you know, memory, that's not good. Now, how the whole mechanism is working. We are fortunate enough to have, you know, two basically things comparing to other animals or, you know, other organisms, and they don't have it. Thing number one, it's memory. We have a memory, and it's a great thing to have. And we have imagination. Memory and imagination can play in your favor, but it can play against you also, right? And it really depends. I'll tell you what I do with executives or with the athletes. Whenever something bad is happening, we lost the big deal, or we lost, you know, there was a qualification in the, you know, Champions League, and Slavia Prague lost it, whatever. So we lost. Okay, I'm telling them, let's do following. Let's take what was good from your performance, what was good, and let's put it in the memory. Let's, you know, imagine what was good, put in the memory, okay? And let's reframe what should be done differently. Basically, what do you need to do with your brain is following. You should confirm what was done well. You need to reframe what was not done well. What do you need to do, you know, differently? And if there are the things you are not doing and you should do them, you should put it also into your memory. The funny thing, guys, the funny thing with your imagination is that you can have, you know, your future in your memory, basically, because of the vision. What is the vision? Vision is the picture of the world which does not exist yet. But if you believe in that picture is stored in your memory, basically. That's all visualization. If I do, for example, with some athletes who want to win Olympic Games, we go like, okay, I won Olympic game, there is a check, national anthem, the flag is going, you know, up, what I feel, how I walk, you know, how I behave, what I think about. So all senses are involved in that visualization. So it's a real experience. It's called embodied experience. And that's the best way how you can store it into the memory, okay? If you will not do it, if you will not do it, you will say, okay, I forget about the failure, that's fine. Suddenly, you know, in very unexpected moment when you will be again like in such situation, that will show up and it's not good. So what you can do with the failure or defeat, basically accept it because it's the past. You cannot change it. It's the past. Learn from the failure and forgive yourself. Those are the three things. Again, accept it, learn, forgive. Because if you will accept it, you will learn, but you will still say, oh, I'm guilty. You know, that's really bad, you know, right? You will not forgive yourself. It will still sit in your memory. This is it. This is what you can do. And today, whatever I call it art, whatever is your art, you may be sales guy, you may be marketing guy, you may be scientist, you may be athlete, whatever, you know, right? You need to know your art, basically, but you need to be also mentally tough because the pressure we have. I have for the in the afternoon the big like 2-hour speech and the Q&A for some large Belgium, you know, businesses. And we talk about it. And I said, you know, imagine your brain in 1 week needs to process so much information as the brains of our predecessors 100 years ago for the whole life. So it's a huge pressure. So that you know, mental preparation, whether it's, you know, sales, as I said, business, you know, science, sport, whatever, it's as much as important as the preparation for your art. The issue is we spend so much time teaching people what is around them, what is the art, or we are not teaching them enough what is inside them. Okay, how to basically what to do with the failure. Failure is result as everything else. The top guys I coach are really good how to handle success. I mean, everybody can handle success, but they are really good how to handle success. But they are superior how to handle failure. And I think that's what distinguishes the champs from ordinary guys, really. Because the champion is also pissed off by the fact that he was defeated or there was some failure or whatever. But the mindset is kind of okay, I aim to the moon. If I miss the moon, I'm still among the stars. That's the mindset. Never give up. My first sportsman, my first athlete, David Svoboda, is teaching now with me. There is a course, Iron Mind. We are teaching together. It's about mental toughness. He's basically saying that only your mind can beat you, right? Only your mind can beat you. Everything else, you can handle. And that's why that, preparation is so important. Now, let me talk a bit about two things, and I will use some sport terminology, but it's applicable for the business, art, and politics, whatever, okay? We have so-called training types. Those are people, for example, during the preparation for presentation or for some business meeting, they are really excellent. But once there is reality, they are under the pressure. So they are under the pressure that customer may say, no, I don't want it. You are too expensive or whatever. They are collapsing, okay? What we can do with those guys who are really good kind of in the preparation phase, but not necessarily in implementation phase. I'll just have a drink and continue. What you can do, during that preparation, you can basically hire the pressure on those guys, because you need to put them, I tell you what, you need to put them in the flow. Flow are moments when I do something I like, and that's what usually, they do, but I'm also under the pressure. And if, I'm in the flow, then it doesn't matter whether I'm extrovert or introvert or whatever, because if people are in the flow, they are in the flow, they laugh, they have a huge emotional connection to what they do, and they are not dependent on the surroundings at all. That's why it works. That's why I have some artists, and they are telling me, if I play this role, like actors, if I play this role, I'm absolutely fine. If I play that role, I'm scared. And I tell you what, if they are playing the role, they laugh. They have huge emotional connection to that role. They are in the flow and they perform the best. If they don't like the role and they are introverts, sometimes they'll say, hey, it's too much exhaustive. It's simply not good. So this is important. So you can, hire the bar even during the preparation. I tell you what, I give you some concrete example. Whenever I was getting ready my people for the presentation to like Bill Gates, Steve Ballmer, like for the whole region, they spent 1 week in Munich with me when I was running Central and Eastern Europe. And people were saying, Jan, that 1 week in Munich was much, much tougher than like 1 day in Microsoft Corporation, Redmond in Seattle with the Microsoft leadership team, because I try to put people under the huge pressure. I mean, in a good sense, so they understand all numbers and everything, because that was a training, okay? Once the training was done, they were ready to compete in front of the best, guys. And, at the end of the day, we were 4 times in a row best performing team in the world. Panos, best regards to Ljubljana. I talked to your son 2 days ago, and I will speak at his, university. Absolutely. So this is it. This is it. So you need to not only try to perform in the flow, but try to be during the preparation in the flow. And then how it works with the overall performance. If you want to be really skillful in some, activity, it is about your talent you have, multiply by effort. If the talent is lower, you need to put more efforts, and the other way around. The best thing is like Ronaldo, a lot of efforts, good talent. Now, how talent is basically perceived, or what is the talent? Guys, talent is basically, information, genetic information we are getting from the previous generations. And because everybody got some genes, everybody got a talent, which means that you need to ask yourself, not like, do I have a talent? That's the wrong question. The right question is, what is my talent for? And then really the skill or strength is talent multiplied by effort. But if you want to be really the champ, if you want to be really good, I have another, equation. Champ, in your field, if you want to be a really champion, if you want to play the Premier League, champ equals talent multiply by efforts and multiply by the time you are able to spend in the flow. If that activity is happening in the flow, and there are hard data from McKinsey, you are 500% more productive, you learn 450% faster, and you are 400% more creative. Shell did recently some study, and they figure out that the only long-term competitive advantage for all organizations, they ask basically the question, what does it take to be among top 5 for 200 years? And the only question they could find was basically, it is ability of that organization to learn fast, okay? And today, if you think how everything is changing, learning is like not necessarily learning the new thing. Learning in general for 21st century is learning, unlearning, relearning. And that's why you would need to learn to unlearn what you learn, basically, sometimes, right? It's a bit, complicated, but this is it. Why is that possible? Because there's something we call neuroplasticity. When I was in the school, like when I was 30 years old, which is almost like 30 years ago, we were taught that brain is basically dying. Once you are like 30 years old, it's dying. It's not true. All of those synapses, which are connecting neurons in your brain, can get reconnected. It's called, there is a child, neuroplasticity, which is the ability of the brain to put together those connections based on how you think, in which environment you are, and so on. If you are adult, if you are 25 years old and later on, it's a little bit slower opposed to the childhood, but brain is still neuroplastic 1 week before you're dying, basically. So always you can rewire your brain. So if you are like afraid of the things and you will do things differently, you can rewire your brain. And now, obviously, if we take about the failures and mistakes, right? And if you still have this mindset, oh, I still go back and look at my failures, whatever. So the first thing, as I said, is basically accept the past, learn from that mistake, and forgive yourself. Another technique, which is called the act of gratitude, try every evening. It's about growth mindset. Every evening, you try basically put together 3 things, 3 new things you learn, okay? And 3 things that are moving you ahead. And it can be learning from mistakes. That's absolutely fine, okay? 3 things you learn from. And in the morning, 3 things you're looking for the day. And your brain will rewire, because we have something, because the amygdala, which is the emotional part of the brain, causing obviously stress and the fear. That amygdala is 4 to 6 times faster than our logical part of the brain. That's why brain is having, unless brain is trained, we are having something which is called negative bias, which means that whatever negative is happening, we are jumping on that, and amygdala is exaggerating that. You know? Well, in the nutshell, it works like whatever good is happening when you are winning or you sign some deals or whatever, it goes like Teflon. Boom, 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 it's gone immediately, okay? Whenever something wrong is happening in your life, it's like Velcro because of that relationship. But you can change it, and you can retrain your brain. And because of the neuroplasticity, it's possible, okay? Because if you will concentrate, you know, on the good things, on the learning what is happening in your life, then you can change your brain. There's a great book called Mindset. I don't know the Czech name, but it's from Professor Dweck. She is from Stanford. And she's talking about 2 mindsets. You can have a fixed mindset, and that's pretty much like here and now, I need to be best. Otherwise, everything is wrong and I'm wrong, whatever. And that's bad. The fixed mindset is bad, okay? And then you have a growth mindset, which is pretty much like, let's be everyday better version of me, okay? Let's improve a bit, you know, every day. And that's I think growth mindset is the right way how to look into the failures and, you know, defeats in your life, right? Because this is it. This is the way how, you know, you can go ahead. And obviously, look, I was very successful manager. I was 4 times in the row best performing manager and the best performing region worldwide in Microsoft. I made a lot of mistakes and a lot of, you know, failures. And the major failure for me was really when I was for 6 months depressed, and I spent 3 months in the mental hospital, okay? So I could do, once I recovered, I could go and say, oh, that was really bad what happened, and, you know, Jan, you screwed it up, whatever. I screwed it up because I didn't have enough, you know, mental rest, and that's why. I mean, I love my job, but I didn't have enough mental rest. That's why there was some, you know, stress. I didn't sleep enough, and so on. And it was okay up to the 50 years of my age, and then I, you know, collapsed more or less for 6 months, you know, right? But I didn't do that. I basically started. I said, what can I do best with my depression? Because there is a huge movement around the world which I, you know, encourage and support. And I even, you know, at some events I even spoke. It's called Fuck Up Nights. Fuck Up Nights. You should look in your territory. Fuck Up Nights is the worldwide movement. It's like 15 minutes in evening, 15 minutes speech from different people, but you need to talk only about the failures, only what you fucked up, right? And so when I recovered after the depression, I said, what good I can take from depression, what I can learn from that. And then I started to put together what was happening, why it was happening, and all the stuff. And I put together some models. Obviously, I verified those models with some famous psychologists and psychiatrists and so on. And today, I'm using that while coaching people, even like I'm the fellow at the Harvard Coaching Institute, and we spoke about what happened and about my models just, you know, recently. So I use it heavily while coaching people. And then you may say, well, people are not depressed in general. But I agree with you. But for example, if you are losing some sales or you are losing some match, you are in the mini depression, okay? And those models can help you how to avoid those situations, okay? So that's, and obviously I am invited by a lot of organizations to speak how to have a mental hygiene, you know, better and stuff like that. This is the way you can use, like I was a huge, it almost cost me my life. It was a huge mistake, huge failure. But I think, you know, once I recover, I learned from that. And based on that, what I screwed up, basically, I helped, and I'm helping also other people. Last point, and then we will open it for your Q&A, basically, is the feedback. The way, very important thing, guys, is your internal dialogue, how you talk to yourself, okay? You can talk like, I'll never be that good or whatever, and then it's bad. Or you can have that growth mindset. Hey, it's great. I'm not there yet as this guy, but it's great to be with him, to train with him, and so on. And that's what is this internal dialogue all about. And in that internal dialogue, I believe it's important. It's called sandwich, feedback. You need to learn what was done well. Even if you are providing feedback to somebody else, it works nicely. So you need first to start what was done well, okay? Some serotonin is released, so you are ready to think or to get from the other person what was not good. But it needs to be like, you can provide yourself feedback. I'm guilty, I'm bad. Or you can talk and like to yourself, hey, this process or this, backhand needs to be done differently. So you are not criticizing you, because otherwise what is happening? Your amygdala, which is more or less your ego, if you are like criticizing yourself, amygdala will jump on that monkey, that internal Woody Allen will jump on that, and you are lost basically. You will start, oh, I'm bad, I'm right. If you are like criticizing the process, not yourself, and it's the same if you are providing feedback to the other person. If you criticize the process, not the person, then it's okay. And last but not least, you can say, okay, if I do those three things well, it will be good. And then, like oxytocin is released, whether you provide feedback somebody else or to yourself. And that's kind of the, chemical of the trust, right? So basically what was done well, what you need to do differently, but you will still be inspired to continue this activity, right? Because very often, I tell you what, very often when we are like, oh, that's bad, I'm really bad, I never learned from that, whatever, we go step by step. There's a lot of self-pity, and self-pity goes, and you are victim. And once you are victim, you are done, basically, whatever you do. It's really bad, right? So be open for, whatever is happening in your life, but no self-pity or, no victims, okay? What is happening with self-pity? If, for example, somebody would say, okay, it's good, but I will not buy it from you because you are, too expensive, whatever. And then your energy goes down, okay? What is helping? I call it mental hero. You may, watch somebody who is real mental hero for you. I tell you what I mean. For me, for example, if I'm refused, okay, there's some, deal, and I'm refused, okay, I feel down, obviously. But whenever I watch, one guy, and his name is Nick Vujicic, he was born with no legs and no arms, and his slogan is no legs, no arms, no fear. I watch him, or on my phone, I read something from him. I'm like immediately full of the energy, because if you watch that guy, you will say, okay, look at him. He's a real hero. And you are like, blah, 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 right? And you are absolutely, back in the game. The same thing I do. I have one guy who is doing triathlon. He's a blind, athlete. I'm preparing him for Para-Olympic Games, right? Onze. And he's, again, great guy. And he's like, whenever I feel like self-pity, that guy, when I think about him, he's returning me back to the game. And I think this is super important, because once you feel yourself, hey, I'm the victim, it's not good at all. And we are not victims, because we have a power to choose. We have a power of choice to choose our reaction. Your life is not created. I mean, circumstances can help, an environment. Your life is created by decisions you made. I still remember when I was 12 years old, I came to the tennis club and I said, I would like to play here professionally, train, whatever. And the chairman of the club said, you are too fat. You should do sumo. You will never be good in tennis. Okay. Basically, I came home and I was not happy at all. But I said, fuck, I'll not, go and do any sumo or whatever. I basically stopped to eat so much. I started to, run and, jog and train a lot of, tennis, even, sometimes late evening and so on. And in 1 year, I've beaten his son, and I became the best junior guy in that club. And since that time, and I was like 12 years old, since that time I said, life is in my hands. My parents and all other people, they can help, but the real life is in my hands. I'm the guy. I was like top, manager, top executive, and it was not about conditions, because I was living on the countryside up to my in the village, basically, up to my 20 years of age. That's number one. I was almost fired from the university. At those universities I'm teaching today, like Harvard, Stanford, INSEAD, Imperial College, I never studied them. Okay. My first job I was a receptionist. So it's not about your job, about the university. It's not about where you were born. It's about decisions, and what do you do? What do you do with your life? This is it. And I can tell you, one thing which I did very well, and I'm always telling the same thing to other people. Today, thanks to the YouTube, you can learn from the people from the Premier League, from the best people around the world. Okay, why should you learn from some people from division? I have nothing against division, but if you want to be best in your specific field, you need to learn from the best. Okay, guys, let's do some, Q&A. So I don't know if you ask already some questions. As one famous Checo said, we may cry, but we cannot shit out of our... That's true. Absolutely. Absolutely. So whatever are your questions, I'm happy to answer. Chris Gott aus Vienna. Jan Pučálka, zdravím. The new psychology, mindset, the new psychology of success. Antonín Přehrota, that's the name of the book from Professor Dweck. I don't know about the Czech name, but no questions yet. It's taking a bit always time for me to see it, when you are asking. Anyway, I tell you, because here is Panos, and Panos was one of my coaches. He was running a huge division of Bayern in here in Czech Republic. Now he is in Ljubljana, and Panos, again, he's from the similar story like Jan. Kind of the small country, village environment or whatever. But he was always, it doesn't matter where are your starting blocks. What matters is where your mindset can lead you. And Panos is now one of the top managers for Bayern in Europe, right? And this is it. And still he will go because he's learning. And I remember coaching him was fun because he was so curious. He was still asking a lot of questions, because guys, curiosity is another great thing, how to fight like negativity, stress and some failures. Because if you are curious people are like, okay, I lost, but let's study, what I can learn, and let's move on. Curiosity goes like that in your life, while the stress goes like, so there's a positive zoom out. While, if you are stressful, there's a negative zoom in, because it's basically fight, flight, or freeze, right? That's kind of the stress, right? Okay, great. You are right. Everyone is capable of making his life the best way. I agree. How are you today, and what was your biggest failure? I'm absolutely excited today. I said in the afternoon, there was a guy, Wim, former guy, also from Microsoft. He was like doing the Q&A with me, and he said, let's take it in American style. And he said, like, I'm excited. And I said, Wim, because I was your boss, so I'm brutally excited. So I'm brutally excited, right? My biggest failure, as I said, it was probably even though it was like health-related failure, but it was really my depression. And then if I would take like really kind of the working failures, I probably hire couple of people I should not hire. And it cost me a lot of money on bonus side. And Jean-Philippe Courtois, who is now Microsoft president, he was absolutely right to cut my bonus because of that. But it was it. But it's funny why I did that mistake, okay? And you need to be careful, right, with that. Because, you know, sometimes I'm the guy who would go like very fast to the conclusion. Hey, this is the strategy. This is the picture. Boom, 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 right? And sometimes it doesn't work like that, okay? My body was giving me feedback. It's called, you know, gut feeling, basically. You feel in your gut that something is wrong. In psychology, we call it incongruence, which means that your body language with your real language is not in harmony, okay? And I could have, like, you know, the gut feeling was telling me, no, it's maybe there is something, you know, wrong, whatever. But on the paper, everything was fine. And Jean-Philippe said it was fine, whatever. And unfortunately, I made not one or maybe two or three those mistakes in my career like that. I was feeling, I was basically betraying my intuition, if you will, right? So intuition is very, very important, you know, right? Okay, so this is it. Finsky Kranik. It's time to welcome the positive leader in Finland again. I think you should come for a holiday here when it's possible. Yeah, Mikko is basically relating. I used to be advisor for the Finnish government during the presidency in 2006. And they have a fantastic educational system. And I work a lot with the Prime Minister, Matti Vanhanen. And there was a great guy, I don't remember the name. He was ambassador of Finland in Czech Republic. And then he was the main advisor for the Finnish president. So I have a really very good relationship about, you know, Finland, because they do fantastic things. They handle COVID also very well, you know, so which is good. You know, in Finland, if we just talk about the failure and kind of the, you know, who is where, okay, Finnish school system is following. That's why they have a very good result. They take the pyramid of all students, the best, kind of the middle and the bottom, but they are telling them, we will move you on your best level, not on the Minister of Education level or my school level or whatever, on your best level. And this is very encouraging. And that's the way how those people can be the best version of themselves, right? Not everybody will be, you know, engineer or whatever, you know, manager or you know, some athlete or whatever. But there are, you know, some good people who are like working manually and they are excellent, right? You know, that's for sure. So Panos, thank you, Jan. See you. Hello, Jan. Stanislav. Hello, Jan. What is the life balance? Money, health, job, free time, relation, how to reach the life balance and be satisfied with the life you are living? Very interesting question. Sorry. If you take happiness around the world, and this is quite interesting, while in the US, during last 30 years, GDP, you know, gross domestic product, which is like how we measure economical success, really improved significantly. Happiness is flat. In some states, it's even, you know, declining, right? So happiness is not about money. Well, I must, you know, confess, happiness is not about the money once you move from the bottom of the Maslow pyramid. Maslow pyramid is basically the Maslow pyramid of the needs. And at the bottom, it's like security, safety, food, and stuff like that. Whatever you can get for the money, it's at the bottom. But then there is like, you know, self-recognition, recognition from the others, you know, be part of some, you know, large community. And at the peak of Maslow pyramid, there is a self-actualization. So to say what is the right balance, I think once people are doing, Stanislav, something they like, they are very often in that, you know, flow, okay? They are self-actualized. That means that probably they'll be also successful. What they need to be careful, because I was doing the job I really love, I was successful, that was fine, but I didn't have enough. I have enough like physical rest, but I did not have enough mental rest, right? So you need to have enough rest, number one. Number two, I think the balance is really about, you know, your family, friends, and so on. And those things when I was a young manager, I must say that I underestimated that, right? But then obviously, you know, I improved significantly, and the way I did it, I plan even my free time, right? I mean, not everything, don't take me, you know, wrong, but like, hey, you know, Sunday, Saturday, 6 hours each day, it's like for the family. You know, if I work Sunday evening at 8 o'clock in the evening, so it's not, you know, cutting the time of anybody else. So this is it. You are in touch with many of them. I would say Diana Roger from Deloitte. I'm you know, coaching her. She's very good. I coach also, and I'm still in touch with my neighbor here, with Michal from Skanska. He's a great guy. He's running like half of the Europe. Michal Jurka. I think in Česká sporitelna, you know, we have a good guy in Slovakia. It's Peter Krutil, you know, and there is a lot of young people. I think I must say that the quality of the Czech managers, you know, right, it's pretty good. I think it's relative to Europe, it's pretty good because they got already some, you know, good trainings and so on. The issue I see is rather the people coming to those organizations because they are trained in the schools and in the secondary schools and maybe at the universities. And that system they are trained on didn't change last 300 years. So it's very much like, you know, absolutely disconnected from the reality, those schools, right? It's like 300 years old system based on the memorizing. And you need to have people who will be curious, creative, and so on. Thanks to the neuroplasticity, you can develop that. And I think that's the major issue, at least what I'm hearing from all employers, that the quality of the people like leaving the schools is not necessarily on the level like 15, 20 years ago, right? So that's kind of what I'm hearing. Imagine that you are 18 years old. What would you do? Ha! Zeldiken. What I would do probably differently. I was playing tennis professionally up to like 20 years old. What I would do, I would still study computers, but I would study like, you know, at the University of Economy, they've got like, you know, they call it automatic systems or something like that. It was like economy and computers, right? Because at the end of the day, I was during my life, I really enjoyed it. I have a deep knowledge of, you know, computers, but I was doing sales and marketing all my career. So that's probably the only thing I would shift a bit and study like economy and technology together, right? That's what I would do differently. Otherwise, whatever, you know, now I have a program for 5 years called Premier League Thinking in Radio Z. And one of the new question I'm asking is like, imagine you are 80 years old, okay? And you are kind of you know, talking with your family, what was good, what was not good. How many if I should do that, if I would do that, if I would do that, how many would and should would be there, okay? And majority of because it's about would and should and your decisions. The majority of the people I'm like inviting us saying, well, I think I was able to take the right decisions in my life. And, you know, sometimes you take a wrong decision, that's fine. There's always around you some people who tell you, okay, this is the wrong decision. There's a lot of managers, if you're talking about managers, a lot of managers, they will tell you, I really, all the time I decide it's usually right. It's all bullshit, guys, okay? I can tell you. And I was like managing thousands of the people, business, 20 billion, you know, euros or whatever. It's not true. When I had a good day and there was 10 decisions, 7 decisions were probably good during my good day. 2 decisions were like so, and 1 decision was bad. So you need to have around you people who would immediately give you feedback. Hey, Jan, we should change it. This is not going to work. Okay. You need to be very open. And the one thing, how you can, you know, handle best failures and defeat, for me, up to say 32, 33 years of my age, it was very hard for me to admit my own mistake. Like for me and in front of the other people, no, I'll never do it. And then, guys, I read a book from Stephen Covey. He was teaching us afterwards. Unfortunately, he passed away already. 7 Habits of the Most Effective People. And one thing he's saying in the book, that once you are able to admit your own mistakes publicly, that it's a huge thing. And since that time, it really changed, you know, and I was able to learn much faster because I said, why should I insist on something which I will figure out in 5 years? It was, you know, wrong. You know, let's change it and move on. Okay. So this is a great question. How have you ever asked yourself how it would be if your employer Bill Gates would work for you? That's a good one, because we were like flying somewhere. We were thinking a bit during the flight, and I said, Bill, is there anything you learned from me? It was not necessarily working. You learned from me, and it was funny. He said a couple of things. He said, like, you are probably one of the best for emerging markets. So you open so many subsidiaries, so you know how this works, and you are very good with your people. And when Bill Gates was like debriefing with Jean-Philippe Courtois, that was funny. He said, Jan, if we have like 1 hour 101, Jan talks 5 minutes about the successes and 55 minutes about what needs to be done better on my side, obviously, but also on the corp side. And this is it. I don't think you need to, if you have a good boss, you don't need to advertise or marketing yourself that much. You know, obviously he or she knows what you are doing and you can move on. Okay. So Lucia, let's give you some help question. I am curious about what's your opinion. How will handle the people, employees, the switch going back from home office to office again? What could we take with to learn how to work more life balance in the new normal? I will maybe shock you a bit, because I don't think it's good to have only home office, right? And it's clear. And the feedback I'm getting, look, every Friday we have like 45 different continents, 40 different people from around the world, and they are coaching really top, you know, guys. So I'm getting feedback from everywhere, right? What is clear now, during the COVID one, say in the spring, it was kind of okay, everybody was learning. But what is clear now, it's working, you know, a bit for like administrative staff and presentation and so on. But if you have like new colleagues and if you wanted to learn from the other people, it's much better to have people together, right? That's point number one. Point number two, I don't know about you guys, but, you know, recently, because everybody wants to have like Jan on online. Tomorrow I do like 2 long online sessions. Again, today probably I'm in front of the computer like for 7 hours. My eyes are not in the good shape, and it's a very tough also to, like, if you do like 1 hour like this is perfect. But if you do like 3 hours and then half an hour break and another 3 hours seminar, it's very tough. And I'm not tired. Like if I do like I'm in front of the class, and if I do it for 7 hours, obviously I feel a little bit like back pain or whatever on my body, but it's fine. But here I'm like mentally basically tired, right? So I think we need to combine it. Now, saying that, when people will return back, COVID is about, I will move one level up. COVID is about 3 big things: huge depth worldwide. Okay, number one. Number two, globalization will slow down. That's clear, you know. And number 3, and that's kind of the optimistic, digitalization will, you know, basically be more applied everywhere, which is good, right? At the end of the day, because it will help with the depth and so on. But we should not. I think the work from home all the time, it's not good solution. And if you talk to psychologists, if you talk people like, you know, Cyril Heschel, psychiatrists, they have the same opinion. So there needs to be a mix, right? And for the schools, I don't think all like teachers I talk to are saying it's okay-ish for some time, but it cannot replace, you know, the work in presence in the school, right? And in general, well, there'll be vaccines, so I hope that there is the light at the end of the tunnel. It's gonna to be, you know, better, and hopefully in spring the things will normalize. But again, relative to the technology, this is like, you know, technology is top. You know, there's a lot of inventions, but then, imagine what kind of the message Mother Nature is sending to the humankind. Okay, there's some virus, and the world is on the knees, more or less, for the year. Okay, right? The world is on the knees, and maybe because we are pushing economy and everything so much, maybe we should slow down a little bit, and maybe, you know, spend more time in the nature, learn from the nature and stuff like that. We will see. We will see. In Finland, actually, they experiment with stuff like, you know, shorter working hours and stuff like that. Because, I mean, economists, because they are now they are like people who are like understanding virology. They are running the world. Before that, it was rather economists, because all, you know, leaders are advised by economists, right? And economists are like pushing. I don't know whether the whole world economy should grow 4%, 5%, maybe 1% is, you know, okay. I don't know, right? So those are all questions we need to ask. One last point. During COVID, in the spring and now, there's a lot of people who are asking me about the meaning of the life, how they can figure out what is the meaning of their life. And it was never so many people in the past. So I think that situation with COVID, when basically we are really locked down, we are starting to think about like freedom. We are starting to think about, you know, meaning in our life. And I think it's a positive. The one and only COVID vaccine is Moravian Slivovic. That's true. Slivovic is good. So as we proud Moravians say, fuck the cola, fuck the pizza. All we need is Slivovic. It is a good one. It is a good one. If we talk about COVID, and Lucia, you asked one good question. I think people would need to learn more about immunity, because we are teaching people still, okay, you will get vaccine, you will get that, you should have, you know, like social distancing, you know, the mask and so on. But we are not teaching people enough about immunity. And immunity is great. I mean, it's about, you know, to move, do some sport, you know, do like Wim Hof, which is like cold water together with breathing, right? Those kind of the things, because immunity is key, and it's in majority of the cases, not always, but it's in your hands. And immunity has to do also with your, like, you know, mental toughness and mental preparation, because obviously when you are stressed for long hours or for many days, a lot of cortisol is released and your immunity goes down, right? That's the other thing. Okay, then just Finsky. Jan Puchalka, how that's my neighbor from here. It's Stepanka Puchalka, brother. How did you react to that situation if a team member said that won't work? Okay, I would, you know, sit with that team member, try to inspire him that it's gonna to work, give him one more chance, and if that guy is still negative, I would, you know, fire him, basically, Jan. Because I tell you what, according to Gallup, I work with Gallup for 20 years now, there is only 14% of the people around the world which are self-actualized, which means those are people doing the jobs they like, okay? And those people, you can leave them, they work on their own because they love what they do, okay? Which means you have 86% of the people, they are there just because of the money, okay? Right? We need to change it more and more, use the talents of the people, put them, engage them, and so on. But according to Gallup, there are 42% of the people, and they are actively disengaged. And that's like infection. Those are all no sayers, no, stuff like that. Those are basically people who are like getting up in the morning, they are pissed off, and they go to the work to piss off other people, right? And this is like infection. And if you will leave one guy, if you have maybe 20 guys, and you have one guy with that infection, and you leave that guy there, it will go like the negative snowball. So I'll try to engage him first, but if it doesn't work, then it's bad, you know, right? Because it's not one other mistake I did once. I kept one guy, was not bad performer, okay, but he was not necessarily scaling with the whole organization. He was not excellent performer. But because he was my friend from the past, he was one of the first hire, I kept him for some time. And then I said, well, you know, that's bad because the whole organization is complaining, you know, right, that the results are not there and so on. And then, you know, we say hello, right? I help him to find another job for sure. But this is it. Some people, and you will see it, if you are growing rapidly your organization, some people will not be able to grow that fast with your organization. And then unfortunately, you need, well, you need to try to train them and retrain them, whatever, you know, right, to secure them for the organization. But if it doesn't work, because some people are saying, no, you know, this is too fast for me, too fast environment, I don't want to, you know, be here, gone, right? The other thing is how to, I talk about prevention in terms of the health, but how you can prevent those situations. You need to be very careful when you are hiring people. And I still made a lot of mistakes. I did probably 5,000, 6,000 interviews during my life, you know, right? And you need to hire right people. And a lot of managers are hiring based on the CV and kind of the discussion, whatever. Not my case. CV was probably 10% of my decision-making process, because I was really testing. I was like, okay, if you were in the tough situation, in some failure, what did you do? How you react? You know, what are your learnings from that, and so on. And if somebody told me I was never in such situation, then it means you don't need that guy, because those guys, unless your guys, those guys are like very often out of the comfort zone, they are risking. You need to have those guys, right? Because if you are like inside of the comfort zone, they will very rarely learn new things, you know, right? So you need to have a curious people, right? I'd give you one example. What I was doing during the interview. For example, in Brussels, right? I was, you know, interviewing somebody for marketing manager post in Brussels office, and I said, okay, we are in Brussels today. How many petrol stations are in Brussels? And 9 out of the 10 people would say, okay, I'll take a phone and I will Google it. Not good person for me, not because of the Google, but because of Googling it, right? Because the right, in my view, the right question would be, okay, in Brussels, we have so many, you know, people, there are so many families, probably like 2 cars per one family. And that's the way that you know, that's the critical thinking. You want people who are able to think individually on their own. This is it, you know, right? If those people need you all the time, those are not good people for you, right? So that's kind of a couple of, you know, things. How you see your software progress experiment to have R&D without managers, and lately maybe the whole company. Well, that depends. There were in the past some experiments like with the flat organization. I don't have, again, nothing against the flat organization, but if organization is led by the leader who is able to inspire other people, okay, who is able to create vision that he believes in, then other people will start to believe on he or she believes, then he or she will move the organization. If it's totally like flat and there are like no managers, I don't know. Maybe it's a good way to do it. Just work on, you know, some pieces. But today R&D, I was I was responsible for part of the R&D in Cambridge. We got like 200 scientists, but it was not real R&D, and they were dotted line to me. But still, even though you have your own projects in the large corporations, and I don't know how much Microsoft, when I was leaving 2014, our R&D budget was like 12 billion, you know, US dollars, right? So maybe it's like 15, 16, whatever. It doesn't matter. But you, even though you are working on your project, you are some, you know, dependencies and interdependencies with the other organizations, and that's why I think at least some coordination needs to be there, right? And again, if it's like sales marketing organization, I mean, in my view, requires some, you know, leader. It's like the soccer teams, right? The soccer teams, funny enough, I have some people from Sparta Prague and from Slavia Prague afterwards, you know. So soccer teams, it's like you're probably 20, 22 players, and usually there are like 2 or 3 people who are able to be the captains of the team. Okay, that's what I'm getting from the coaches, because to be a leader, and it doesn't, you know, the other guys are great players, but not, you know, all great players are great captains, and the other way around, obviously. All right, so I really believe in leadership, but today those people, they call themselves leaders because they have something nice on the business card. It's not leadership. Leadership is not about what you have on the business card. Leadership is about followers. You are called leader because other people are following you, okay? And people will follow you if they will believe in what you believe, even during the tough times, you know, right? And that's the same with your customers. If you take, I love, obviously, Bill Gates, but I also have a lot of respect for Steve Jobs. Unfortunately, he passed away 10 years ago. But Steve Jobs created, when, you know, in the year 2000, Microsoft owned 30% of Apple, and Apple capitalization was like 500 million US, which was fractional to today, you know, value. It's the most valuable company in the world, okay? And I think Steve Jobs created, it's not necessarily company, Apple, it's movement. It's like religion, because people, those users, you know, and the customers, they believe what he believed, basically, right? And it's a great technology, it's great design. And once you have a loyal customers, they will follow you, they will buy from you even during the tough times. And that's the same with the employees. I believe that's the same with the employees. Stuff like this, that was when I joined Microsoft, right? We were also like darling, there was like Windows 95 and so on. And then it was getting more and more like normal company. Now, again, I think Microsoft is doing very well if you take like a stock price and so on. And Satya Nadella is doing a very good job. It doesn't mean that I was asked question what I think about Steve Ballmer leadership, which was majority of my time. Steve was a CEO. Bill was CEO till 2000, and then for 14 years was Steve. And I think Steve was a very good leader. He was not necessarily that visionary like Bill Gates. This is the reason why stock was flat for 10 years. But he was putting, I mean, once he finished, we got like 80 billion US in bank, you know, for Satya Nadella. And I think that's a great gift, you know, another CEO can get from the previous CEO. So sometimes the press is not necessarily fair, in my view, to Steve Ballmer, but it will take some time, and I think they will be. Okay, good evening. Yes, I'm here. I should build some new positive startup and hire me, and I need professional placement for my student. Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, guys, thank you so much for being here. We'll continue in English because a lot of you, I know, there are a lot of people like Czech origin, but you are writing me that you have some partners, English speaking and so on. And I also will invite, you know, more English speaking people from places like, because they now do some exams from INSEAD and Imperial College and other places. So I wish you all the best, and we will, like in 1 week or like 10 days, we'll continue. I will put more, you know, content here on LinkedIn. I do a lot of Czech content on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and YouTube. Obviously, YouTube is both English and Czech, and here is more English. You can sign in for my channel at YouTube if you want, and there's a lot of stuff also on my web. It's both in Czech and in English. So Jason, thanks very much. Jason, great. Thank you guys, and have a good time, have a good health, and see you soon again. Namaste.